company's environment is not necessarily another company's. Every company has its own culture and its own expression of creativity. And so how they set up their creative center will reflect who they are. Google is clearly reflecting who they are, and it's excellent. But who we are, what company we're in, that we need to determine. The next thing that needs to happen, which is very important, we have to supply resources to the people inside. So you could set up an innovation center which allows people to come. Let's say I was an engineering firm, allows people to come into there 24 hours a day, maybe a person who's staffing it, and they can build anything they want that may not be related to their job. Who supplies them with that? If the company supplies them or the organization supplies them, it will stimulate the innovation that has to be done. There's been numerous studies covering this. One of them is by a person by the name of Berth in Europe, where he looked at the top 73 innovations in Europe, and he found that 67% of them had resources available to them that allowed them to stimulate this. And by the way, 75% of the top innovations in Europe in the year he studied it came from the bottom up. It didn't come from top down. 12.5% from top down. 12.5%. So the people inside are the ones that have this. How do I tap them? I must build the infrastructure. I got to build the pipes. I have to become a plumber and literally connect the pipes up.
Talking about it, there is an Austrian economist, Joseph Schumpeter, who thought about creativity and destruction, put it all together, and how from a hurricane you can build something good. I think you talk about something that is very related. How can something that is destructive build something good in a company?
Something that's destructive, we live with this natural destruction all the time. Well, let me give you an example. Let's say I make, I happen to be an accounting firm, and it's the 1900s. And I have these big, bulky machines that I could press that add things up and do things so I can account. Then suddenly a computer comes along. Okay, that computer comes along, and I now need to change, because if I don't, I'm going to be out of business. It takes too long. So I shift. Now it's destructive, right? Because I have to get rid of everything I have, and I have to now bring the new in. But it's also an opportunity. Once I bring that in, and I now have my accounting firm, right, and it's now working with the computerization, the thing that hasn't changed at all are the principles of accounting. The principles are the same. The methods and actions change, and those change over time. So I always have to understand the principles under which I work, and the methods and actions are going to vary depending on the circumstance. Now, another example. If I happen to make buggy whips, and a car comes, right, I'm in a different business. And no matter how well I make that buggy whip and how good it is, it's never going to be good enough. Because the car is coming, everything is shifting, I must shift with it. What happens inside organizations is one of the elements of destruction that's present is that we hold on to things that are assumptions when we started the organization.
Is that what happened with General Motors, for example, that it's an old company who now is losing billions of dollars every year?
Very possibly, because they may have missed seeing certain things. But as for me, I look at organizations going through ups and downs, just like we do in our life. If you ask me, did I make the right decision when I was 12 years old, 25 years old? They're different decisions. And looking back, I see different things. I get wisdom from looking back. Wisdom is always hindsight, right? So when you look at something like General Motors, that's an extremely good organization, been around, very powerful. I am very sure it will innovate its way into the next stage of development. So yes, sometimes we drop, sometimes we go up. In any given point in time, when I look at that, I see the drops and the ups and downs. I must step back and look at the whole picture. And in order to do that, the leadership must be innovation focused. like in General Motors. They must look at the innovation, both the breakthrough and the incremental. And they have to find the right balance in order for that to work. And if they do, they'll be extremely successful into the future.
Now talking about Brazil. Brazil ranks in a very low position for registration of patents. Why? We have good ideas in here, like biodiesel, for example.
Oh, sure,
So
sure. Yeah.
what can we do to improve that, to have innovation as a method here in Brazil?
Well, there's two things you're asking. One of them is about patents and about innovation. First of all, patents basically is a strategy of a company. They can say, I want to patent, increase my number of patents. I've seen this over the years. Multiple sets of companies have done that. And when you do that, you'll get more patents because the inventions are already here. It's whether we choose to patent them. It really is our choice, our leadership choice. I am convinced in Brazil we have more than enough inventions. We're just not stimulating it to come forward and do the patents. Next is we may not want to patent. That's a strategy of a company. Innovation is when I take those ideas and I convert them to the quantifiable gain. We seem to be doing that here. We're growing, right? So we're innovating. Can we improve? Of course we can. And every company and country wants to improve.
And you came to Brazil to help that also.
To help that out.
You have an office in India, South Africa, Europe, US, and now Brazil. Why Brazil?
Well, Brazil is really a growing economy. It also has extremely innovative people. And I would add one other piece. We're talking about the human principles that make innovation happen. Brazil, we understand the relationships very well. My limited exposure here I've been extremely impressed. We understand how to build relationship. We understand how to make that work for us in our society. If we can do that, we can transfer that inside our organizations and innovate better. Because innovation is based on people. It's not just technology and business. That's the language we use, technology and business. It really is, can I leverage the people I have inside and help them do what they have to do? And in order to do that, I have to build relationships and I have to build trust. I have to understand how all this fits together. Brazil is poised to do that.
I hope so.
I hope so too.
Thank you very much for this interview. E obrigada a você, assinante, pela companhia. Até o próximo Conta Corrente Especial.